Okay, let's talk about the stock market technical analysis. We're going to go ahead and look at trade ideas, different trade setups, and let's just get right into it. If you guys are finding value in the content, drop me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't done that. I appreciate that. And then equally, if you're interested in the private member group, that's the area where I'm communicating, giving additional trade ideas, additional market insights. Feel free to join up, $5 a month. Check it out. Can quit anytime. Link in the description below on that one. Okay, so the trades. I'm currently short, just to kind of call that out. We basically caught the bounce that I was looking for. There might be a little more upside. That is possible. I want to kind of point out what I see in the charts. But in general, I think we're about at the area where I'm expecting the turn. So I want to kind of show those key levels. And the bounce that we caught recently, down here, that big drop, basically I did point out in my last video, kind of put it out there pretty crystal clear that I was expecting us to have a bounce. And, sure enough, we got it, especially yesterday. Yesterday was a really strong, pretty much a straight up day. Looked like really bulls kind of piling in, foaming at the mouth. And then anybody who was kind of late to the party short after the most recent drop here, which we caught pretty much most of that, then, they were getting squeezed out. All right, so here's what we got on the technical charts. The daily chart for the triple Qs. We have a downtrend line to watch. All right, it's right here. You can see it's basically, we're pretty much right in that area now. They popped it up a little bit today, but again, this is a daily chart, so it's all about the daily close. There is maybe a little more upside. I could see it coming off the highs, potential downtrend line coming off the all-time highs. This big bearish engulfing candle has been our top and remains the top until proven otherwise. Again, I'm treating that as if it's the market top. So, and I'm not going to write, I'm short now. I'm not going to write a short out all the way up to go test the top. I definitely wouldn't do that. If we start to break above some key resistance levels, I'll stop out and we'll look for a better, more objective entry. But as of now, that's been the top. And we have a downtrend line off of that high. So you can see resistance and resistance right there. So we only have a couple reactions, and that's why I'm not completely in love with that trend line. But it's enough to say that we do have a potential range to watch. Flipping over to the futures daily chart, this is why I like the area right now, right here and now, to be short. The futures are a lot more clear because we have a lot more trading, overnight trading and everything. So it helps define the levels a lot better. So always watch both. If you're trading the triple Qs, you still need to keep an eye on the futures. Line up your levels. Here's the top. Again, that bearish engulfing candle. And you can see this pretty clean and clear downtrend line. And look where we're at right now. Now, yeah, they might run it up and kind of test this. I see kind of some horizontal resistance right around 19,448, 50. But in general, it's in the area where it's no longer objective to be long. The objective area to be long was down here when we bounced off of that and bought that dip. But we're now, the dip's over. All right, buying the dip no longer exists, and we are into key resistance. And again, going with the thesis that we're in a downtrend and this is the top, then again, this is where you'd expect us to get rejected. Likely back down to the 200-day moving average over time. I mean, I'm talking about the daily chart, so there's going to be zigs and zags, but that, over time back down to the 200 and then ultimately take that out. All right. So that's the daily chart on the futures. Let's flip over to the SPY. SPY on the daily chart, we had, you can see this range right here. This was some former support, and then when it was broken with that big red candle there, the market just plunged, right? So we've rallied right back into that resistance level. Okay, so that is pretty obvious resistance on the daily chart, and I'd expect it to hold. And yeah, you can see intraday they popped it above, but again, they've stepped in and sold it so far. So daily close is where it matters. And the Fed's next week, so we might go into a holding pattern for a few days, maybe kind of just chop around current levels. So, but there's not going to be any surprises coming out of the Fed. Right now, I just checked the CME futures. We're priced for a 25 basis rate rate hike. I don't think there's anything coming out that would change that. So that's very likely kind of where we're at, and the Fed will do what the market expects. And the ES, I was looking at the daily. It doesn't show super clear on the daily. There's just not a ton of reactions. But when I go down to the hourly on the NASDAQ futures, you can see basically, we've got this level. I've got it marked out right there. So support, resistance, resistance, resistance. Okay, and that's it. All right, so semiconductors, because I really do think a lot of this market right now, there's kind of two main areas of the market that have been in focus. One is the semiconductors and two is the financials. So both of those are important right now. SOXX above the 200-day simple moving average, just barely, but kind of holding. Now this thing it's been chopping through it recently, so we're not going to give as much weighting to the 200-day right now because of the volatility, but we're above it right now. But downtrend line off the all-time highs, and this again could rally a little more. We could go up and hit the trend line over the next few days. It's about a 2% pop in the semiconductors before running into that downtrend line resistance, so that's always possible. But objectively, it's not objective to be long, or if anything, to take new longs, because the upside before hitting major resistance, is again about 2, maybe up to 3% rise. But then the downside down to support is about a 7.5% drop. All right, and that would bring us all the way down to a major support level. Does look like we are kind of creating an isometrical triangle, which is an indecision pattern. Okay, it's compressing, so maybe we want to compress a little bit more and then ultimately break one way or the other, and that will help determine the next longer term trend. So we'll keep an eye on that. Again, supports this big downtrend line. And then the big player in this space is NVIDIA. So that's obviously a key player. NVIDIA on the daily chart, you've got support on this trend line here. I've got it kind of marked out. We recently hit that support again. All right, traded there for a few days. This was the key that I really was pointing out to the private member group, how, even though it was kind of whippy for a few days and they were moving it up and down, but in general, NVIDIA was still holding support, and that was a real key tell. The market's not going to break down in any major way until NVIDIA breaks the major support line. NVIDIA is still holding that trend, and there's the dip buyers that bought it up. Now, this has rallied into resistance. All right, there you go. Look on the daily. Very clean and clear resistance. There's a reaction there, and then gap down and big sell. Rallied right back up into that resistance. They've overshot it a little bit throughout the day, but in general, still holding. That's resistance. And then the upside, probably max upside, would be this downtrend line here. All right. Right there. I know I got a lot of little circles going on, but in general, that would be the max upside. Anything above that, and it is likely going to go make all-time, new highs. Whoops. Trying to clean this chart up as I go. So anything above that downtrend line, and you're probably going to run at the highs. And if you run at the highs, you're probably going to pop them. So I would put high probability that if you break out here, you're gonna probably break out at the all-time highs. Everybody will be watching it for double top. Usually when everybody's watching it, they're probably gonna pop it. So that is the upside potential. But as of right now, at resistance. So what I would really be expecting is is for the resistance to hold, and if it holds, then we probably head back down to the trend line. This trend line should break sooner rather than later, but until it does, that's support. Okay, XLF obviously had a big sell. On the daily chart here, you can see big uptrend line, okay, negative divergence. That was building for a while, telling us, okay, likely going to break trend. There's your sell signal on the daily, big break of trend. This was all pointed out in the private member group. And then we sold down to the first level of support, which was former resistance. All right, and I pointed that out in the private member group as well. So I covered my short trade. Also, yesterday is actually kind of telling too, because yesterday you can see we sold down to the first level of support, which is about 44.14 or right in there. And then And then the other day, they actually sold it down to the next level of support, which was 43.37. And at that point, we had NVIDIA at support, trendline support. We had the financials hitting a support level. And it just made a ton of sense that there was going to be a bounce or a rally, especially with the financials kind of breaking through this support back down or down to another level of support. And then, there's a gap there to help define that. So it made sense that we were going to see a decent rally, and that's what I think we got. We started to get that really yesterday. Now today, rallied it, kind of back into downtrend resistance. Let's go into the hourly chart to kind of take a look at that. It could go up a little more. I could easily see it kind of holding and rallying up to this trend line here. That's your resistance level, as far as I can tell on the hourly. So maybe a little more upside, hold this support here and then rally up. It's about a 1% or so. It's not a lot. It's about 1% higher in XLF, and then very likely get rejected there. A break above that downtrend line is going to be bullish, and so we could watch for that. But yeah, as of now, kind of sitting at support. 44.14 is really basically support. We're just sitting right at it. So it's not objective to short here the financials. If anything, if you're going to do anything, it's more objective to be long the financials into resistance. All right. And again, that's about a 1% gain up there. No guarantees it's going to get up there. And with the triple Qs and stuff kind of at resistance, I can see that, that it doesn't get up there. But it doesn't there's no trade here unless the only trade is long. All right. And then if you don't want to be long because you don't think it's going to get up there, then I just sit tight and wait for the break of support. All right. And then we should head lower. I'm kind of leaning that way. I'm kind of leaning towards the break of support. But anyways, that's what I got. And then JP Morgan was the big heavy hitter, big, huge down day. Look at that down day right there. You're going to have a little relief buying for sure in JP Morgan at one point it was way down here. And JP Morgan, I have this trend line here. It's been violated a couple times, but in general, you can see I had 3 reactions. They broke it, recovered it, broke it again. So it is below that trend line at this point. They might want to trade, kind of grind along this trend line. But I don't think they're going to buy this thing up, and in fact, I think there's more major sell signals going on, especially with big red impulsive sell downs. And the buyback is just it's not as impulsive. So I think this thing's heading lower. The one thing I'm also watching is the card holders, Visa and MasterCard. These JP Morgan and Berkshire Hathaway kind of make up a big chunk of the financials. So this one, you can see support. We're just kind of walking up this support line. That's the trend line. It hasn't been broken. And no real divergence there on the daily, unless you go way out. So, still holding support. I need to see a sell signal here. That would help the financials to continue lower. And then here's Visa. Kind of a similar look. You've got an uptrend line. They're still holding that trend line support, so no real sell signals there. So yeah, I don't know. They might want to pop the high here on Visa and put in a divergent high. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Eli Lilly, this one has broke trend, because if I roll out and look at the trend, here's your nice clean uptrend line on LLY. There's your sell signal recovery, slight recovery of the trend line, but that came with, and I've got it crazy marked out, but there's your negative divergence when that recovery happens. So that was a signal that this recovery is likely going to be a false breakout, a false recovery. And then you got another sell signal right there on that big red candle, that breakdown. So that's a failed recovery, and the divergence told us it was likely going to be there, and just kind of trading sideways. Now, did they want to rally it back up to the trend line? Maybe, that's possible, but it's, from my perspective, it's sell the rip. All right. I think if we rally into resistance, it should get sold down, and we should, doesn't mean we have to, but we should continue to trend lower. All right. I am expecting us to actually start to move lower. So I don't think, from my perspective, it makes sense to be short this one. Okay. and that's what I'm doing. Here's another one to watch, the Home Builders PHM. You can see here we have a bearish rising wedge. All right, there's a bearish rising wedge right there. We have a negative divergence on the PPO and the RSI. So we're just kind of waiting for a sell signal, a break of this support level. There's two ways to trade it. You can trade it on rallies into resistance, would be the top of the wedge, or a break of support. I prefer to wait right now on this one for this to break that support level. But the bearish rising wedge, we're coming to the apex of the wedge, so it should break soon. Sometimes they'll break it to the upside though, just to run a bunch of shorts out of it, and run a bunch of stops. So I'm going to wait for the break of the trend, wait for the break of the support. And bonds, TLT, you can see this is the hourly chart, but we did just break support here on the hourly, and bonds actually are on a sell signal. I think what's going on in the bond market is everybody was front running the Fed because they saw that the Fed, they saw the Fed was going to start to an easing cycle. So they all piled into bonds because as rates come down, bonds go up essentially. And so a lot of people piled in to front run that move. So we saw that up move in the bond market. And, I think that's probably going to unwind now as we see rates maybe start to rise a little bit. So we'll watch this, but I would expect some pressure to show up in the gold market, and if rates, continue to rise. And today here's the gold miners. They're doing well today. I can see across the board. They kind of all trade typically the same direct. They kind of all trade together. Gold is GDX. It's doing okay. It's up today. No technical change though. That's the thing. We continue with this negative divergence. All right, the daily chart has negative divergence, and we just continue to kind of pop up and make divergent high, and it looks like it's going to go make another one. So we will, for me, there's just no trade right now in the miners. I just don't see any real big technical change. So we're going to just continue to watch that. One to watch though is Newmont. You can see here it's been marching up this uptrend line. So support. This is the heavy hitter in the miners, support, and we have negative divergence on the on this one. So a break of trend would trigger a sell signal, and you get a sell signal in Newmont. The rest of the miners should come down as well. GM, this one obviously had a pretty impulsive sell-off, rallying back into resistance today, very similar to the rest of the market in the S&P 500. So there you go. This was former resistance, then it broke out, big impulsive candle, held support, that's a hold, and then finally broke. Once it broke again, because they held support here, but the next day, boom, sell signal. Once you got that sell signal on that candle, impulsive rock down, just plunge right down to the 200-day, spiked all the way back up into that downtrend line I had marked out, and was rejected right there. And then again back down to this, gapping down really to this this key level, and today rallying back up on a reaction into resistance. So again, that's resistance until proven otherwise. A break above that would be a buy signal, and then otherwise it should hold here and get rejected, and ultimately I think we're going to get rejected here and go down to the 200-day and the next level of support, about 42, 43-ish. So you can see there's reactions there. So that's that's where I think we're going on that one. Okay, I've been scanning around. So if there's anything else you guys want me to cover, leave a comment below. I'll take a look at it. If it's interesting, I can point it out in the private member group. And then I will catch you guys on the next one. Take care.